Hi, everyone, and thanks for having us today. We hope you're enjoying the conference and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Dan Weisman, one of NAR's Directors of Emerging Tech. I joined NAR about 2 years ago on the Strategy and Innovation team, which we'll be talking a bit about today. Before joining NAR, I actually worked in the commercial construction space as a project manager for a number of years, and then I shifted over and started to focus on implementing large ERP software for some of the largest contractors in the country. And that's kind of where I made my shift into the tech space. The area that I'm really passionate about is looking at and understanding kind of what the boots on the ground are doing, how they can be better at their day-to-day through process improvement and creating efficiencies and figuring out if there's technology that can help solve some of those problems. I've had the pleasure of working with two other amazing and experienced folks that are with us today, Jeb and Dave, and I'd like to have them introduce themselves before we jump in. So, Jeb, would you like to introduce yourself?
Great. Yes. Thank you very much, Dan. And thanks to everyone who has joined us today. We're really excited to be here and to share some information about our team and some of the strategies we're helping companies with in working with standards. I have been in the prop tech world for about 15 years now. 10 of those was with a major franchisor here in Denver. I was with Remax LLC, and then I've also worked on the retail side in the tech strategy as well. So I've had a lot of experience both working directly with brokers and agents, but also working on the back-end technology as well as in implementing it. So let me turn it over to Dave to introduce himself.
Sure. Thanks, Jeb. Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Conroy, Director of Emerging Tech here at NAR. I really appreciate the invitation to come speak today. Being in real estate tech myself for about 10 years now, as a former IT director of a state association, former lead engineer at a real estate startup, and now working back at NAR, I can truly say that I appreciate the work that's being done by this group and just RESO in general. So again, just really glad to be part of this session and share a bit about what we're working on and hopefully how we can work together more in the future. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Appreciate the intros. So let's talk a bit about what we're going to cover today. So what we want to talk about is, I mentioned the strategy and innovation team. We are part of a larger group at NAR, and we want to make sure that we describe what that group is, the Strategic Business Innovation and Technology Group, and how it kind of all fits together. And then we'll do a bit of a deeper dive into specifically what Dave and I work on from an emerging tech perspective and what Jeb works on from a strategy perspective. And then what I think will be most relevant and I'm excited about is we have a startup that will be here today to talk to you about the importance of RESO and the standardization of data and how it's helped them solve a real world problem in a much more efficient way. So let's dive in. So I mentioned the Strategic Business Innovation and Tech Group, also known as SBIT. It consists of 4 different subgroups. The first one is our Strategic Alliance, which is where our Realtor benefits are managed. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We have about 30 different partners that include companies like DocuSign and FedEx and AdWorks and a number of other different products and services that our members either get for free or at a significant discount. The next group is our wholly owned subsidiary, Second Century Ventures, which is NAR's venture arm. That group started about 8 or 9 years ago. And in addition to the venture capital component, they also started an accelerator program called REACH. It first focused on really residential prop tech, but has since expanded to focus on commercial prop tech as well. And even more exciting, they have expanded globally. So we now have REACH accelerator programs across the world, literally in Australia, Southeast Asia, the UK, and Canada. And what's so neat about this group is every year, each one of these groups has about 8 to 10 companies that goes through the accelerator program. It's a year-long program supporting companies that ultimately will add value to our members and realtors in general. And just a bit of a teaser, the company we have who will be talking about this real-world example I mentioned earlier is not only a RESO member, but also a recent REACH graduate. So very excited about that. The next third group is the strategy and innovation team, which includes Jeb, Dave, and myself. And we'll expand on that in a moment. But before we do that, I want to mention the fourth group, which is the Realtor Information Network, also referred to as RIN. And that's the group that manages our top-level domains, both .realtor and .real estate. And ultimately, we're trying to encourage our members to utilize that Realtor brand in their domain, since it's really well known and respected across the industry, of course. So if you look at these four groups, what's great is they all have the same goals. We're here to drive financial return and success to our members through different products and services, and ultimately make them more profitable and productive. And so, I know I quickly ran through the strategy innovation team, but I want to dive into each of those areas and kind of build on the relationships and the people that we have talked to that we think are important to understand from a RESO perspective. So let's talk about the emerging tech team. So the emerging tech team, also referred to as MTech, is tasked with researching and staying up to date on any and all technologies that may enrich or disrupt the industry. So that could be companies or different types of technology that are having implications that might not be for 2 to even 10 years out. So I mentioned earlier, Second Century Ventures and REACH, we're trying to get ahead of them. So we are looking at different types of technology and trying to be kind of the tip of the spear. So how do we do this? We do this by learning as much as we can about different tech concepts. And then we're organically creating content through webinars and meetings like this, and sharing and discussing all things prop tech. And then collaboration is a huge component as well. So we collaborate a lot with our membership, of course, NAR leadership, advocacy groups. Our advocacy team, obviously up on the Hill, does a ton of work. A lot of that stuff on the Hill is now around technology, so we support them. Strategic Alliance team, there's a lot of overlap. And then, of course, the MLSs and this group itself, RESO. So, throughout all of our efforts, we talk to a ton of startups, but we've also created these amazing relationships with big tech companies. So companies like Facebook Reality Labs and Microsoft, their AI group and their mixed reality group, and AWS, and more than just cloud storage, but products like the recognition tools, which are very, very applicable to the real estate industry. So, with that said, networking and engaging is so critical to our team, and we're excited for you guys to be part of this conversation. So how will we continue to engage? So Dave and I have around 5 or so topics that we continue to follow and have been following. Topics like 5G, AI, which I mentioned a few moments ago, augmented virtual, mixed reality, and blockchain. Those are some of the top kind of topics that we've been covering in the past. And so in addition to that, we're also looking at adjacent industries. As we all know, something that happens in the fintech industry, for example, may very well work its over to the prop tech space and have an impact. So not only are we focusing on prop tech, but we are looking at those adjacent industries to find those areas of potential synergies. So as we kind of build on these relationships, especially with the big tech and startups, we find it very important to ultimately have a seat at the table and to be able to represent the real estate industry from a tech perspective and be part of this ever-changing landscape. But I think what's most important to this group is we want to be able to support RESO and the prop tech community through participating events. Dave and I started a prop tech meetup group with over 400 people in it, where we talk all things prop tech every other month and really sharing relevant information at both our conferences and staying involved with this group itself, RESO. So very excited again. Appreciate the opportunity to talk a bit about the emerging tech team. I want to hand things over to Jeb, who's going to hit on the second half of our strategy and innovation team, which is the strategy component. Jeb?
Dan, thanks very much. And again, thanks everyone for joining us today. I work more on and focus more on the strategy side. And while there are absolutely some overlaps with Dan and Dave and their team in the MTech world, we want to work with them to help develop the dialogue with some of those early to mid-stage companies, including the ones that are coming in through Second Century Ventures and Reach. The goal there is to help them navigate the industry and drive additional value, not just for those companies themselves, but for the members and our members and their customers. You can see the mission that we have here is create partnership that benefits our members today. We really are tasked with creating and bringing technology to our members and to the industry that are going to help them be more profitable. But at the same time, when we look at our long-term objective, we want to form those solid relationships that Dan was sharing that help keep our members relevant tomorrow. Meaning, are we looking at technologies that are coming maybe not into the industry quite yet, but are on the way? And if so, how are they going to affect our members? So looking at my team directly, as I mentioned, we work very closely with the emerging technology team to develop relationships that can help potentially, focus and move into more strategic dialogue with some of those companies. Along with that, we support some of the other NAR tech initiatives, Second Century Ventures and Reach. We want to work with them to help develop the family of companies that they're working with. As important is our relationship with RESO. We want to continue to make sure we are contributing to RESO and, importantly, spreading the message. And then finally, there are other NAR family of investments that we continue to focus on and assist, where we can help define some strategy, both current and future, that would be of interest. One of the areas that we really want to help focus and maybe expand even more is our team wants to connect with MLSs. And the goal of this is to help share insight and strategy into some of these early stage technology companies that we have exposure to and we might be aware of, and share with them and educate some of these MLSs on what that potential value proposition could mean for them. Along with just being conferences like today, we're happy to connect and talk about doing an education or training or even a simple presentation to help educate MLSs and their members. And then, importantly, we want to continue to cultivate those relationships that Dan talked about. You sometimes hear them referred to as the FANG companies, the Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. We want to look for ways that we can help influence their products and their relationships with our members. The key there is obviously a benefit to both parties. But importantly, we want to ensure that none of our members are being disenfranchised by any of these companies as well. And then finally, we'll touch on at the very end a little bit about the IOI conference we're very excited about. And really, it's just a great event. We'll talk more about that here in just a minute. So let's talk just a second on where SBIT, or the Strategy, Business, Innovation, and Technology team, how we partner with RESO and what that means and what we can bring to the table, if you will. We know that the RESO standards are critical. We've obviously been a supporter from day one, but one of the things we can do is help spread and help adoption of the RESO value proposition across the industry. Obviously, we have access to our realtors and brokers, but also across MLSs and associations, both state and level. We want to make sure they're familiar with the RESO value proposition and understand why it is so important to utilize that. One of the biggest assets, as we've talked about, as you've learned, is our tech connections. What we're trying to do, and we'll bring up someone here who's going to talk a little bit about their adoption, but we're trying to encourage these early stage tech companies to focus on the RESO adoption and why it's so important for them to do so. Obviously, we want to promote the value of that standardization, but we want to also demonstrate how having that RESO standard can help companies scale more quickly. And then finally, we want to help connect our REACH companies to other RESO participants. As I mentioned earlier, there could be some services that we have in our portfolio that could be very beneficial to any number of the RESO members here today, whether it's at the MLS front, whether it's on the association front, or whether it's the realtor or broker themselves. And so with that, I want to go ahead and turn this over to Jason Harris. Jason joins us. He's the CEO of CartoFront. And as Dan mentioned, he's a recent REACH graduate. We're very excited to have him join us today and talk a little bit about CartoFront, what they do, and also what standards have meant for them.
Thanks, Jeb. I really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me in to share our story. And Dan, if you don't mind just going ahead. Our goal is to simplify flood insurance. It's a very confusing, very niche topic. It's not part of homeowners, and it's something that is really a concern to the nation, right? Climate change is affecting everything. There's more than 41 million homes that are at risk. And when we look at the map, and it's an overlay from FEMA's maps to independent research, it's not just a coastal thing anymore, it's inward as well. My background is, I come from a big system background in McDonald's Corporation, so I'm acutely aware of standards and the importance of being able to scale across from, store to store. And so when I came into this opportunity at CartoFront as CEO, I knew that the ability to scale and have standards was critical to our success. So Dan, if you don't mind just going forward again on the next slide. So this is really critical. Last April 1st, just a week or so ago, based on the taping date, this is the announcement from the government. The government's been kind of the primary place of flood insurance to the world, of the U.S. world, and now they're changing the way things are. And what's happening now, it's opening up the window for an emerging private market to compete. We knew this going in. This is one of the reasons why we chose this approach. And we knew that we needed to take advantage of the window. The only way we could do it is by having standards and an adoption of standards. So if you don't mind, Dan, going to the next one. We view our success as being right there at the point of sale. We're a bridge between the real estate market and the emerging flood insurance market. And so we're, needing to make sure that we're consistent as we go across all the MLSs in the United States and lever up these opportunities to be embedded within different networks, whether it's the network of Realtors, the network of the MLSs, and the network of the different technology that we're going to be integrating with. So this is how our platform works. We're integrated right into each and every listing. We're within the navigation bar. And this is kind of the view that the realtor sees when they see it. What's maybe as important, Dan, if you don't mind going to the next slide, is the architecture behind it, right? And this gets to, and I want to take a moment here, talks about the standards. We knew as CartoFront, as an emerging technology company, that we needed to be flexible, API-driven, and nimble because we were going to interact with a bunch of different systems all across the continuum. Some of them were going to be kind of new systems that were speaking the same language that we were. Some of them were going to be legacy systems. What's important in our system is that we're taking the data out of the MLS. There's about 45 records or so. We need to have standards for the data that we're going to then transfer to get actual directional insurance quotes, both from the government and from a private insurer. Without that standardization, each and every integration that we do as we go around the country is going to be a major lift. But because of the standardization, we can have consistency as we integrate with our first client, who's Miami. And thank you, Miami, for all your support. Teresa King-Kenny, Liz Sturrock, the entire team there. Then we can go to other markets that are either on CoreLogic, which is the underpinning for Miami as well as half the market, or we can go to Black Knight just as easily, or Flex MLS, or proprietary, because everyone's on the same base standards. Makes our life easy, and then it makes it easy to integrate with them at low friction, low energy, and efficiency. What's also nice is as we grow and offer more value to our clients, we can add more ability to customize and scale, add products, add conveniences, all because that base core has the same standards. So that rectangle that says CartoFront can be lifted up and then integrated in different places with confidence, knowing that the standards are going to be the same wherever we go. It makes it easy on the front end for integration, makes it super easy on the back end as we try to reconcile each and every day and each and every week, each and every month, how much information is passing through our system and being able to report to our clients as well. So it's really, really critical that we have that. This is what we're expanding to. This is what we earn the right to do, and this is the ability to replicate. And again, I'm a McDonald's guy by training. When we did tests in a region of the market to see if something would connect with consumers, we then very much knew that we were going to cycle it around the United States in an advertised test or whatever. It was really critical that we had those standards. And I remember a day when I started there that we had like 10 different POS machines. One of the major strategies was to get down to one so that it would be easier, so that we could have the same consistency as we had data, keys, and then added new products as we went forward. So that's the parallel here. Again, having standards kind of aligns with kind of our approach to business. It's smart, it's easy to use, it's reliable, it's service oriented. Bilingual, you can make a guess on that, but it's important that all of these things come to bear, because it makes us, a small company with limited resources, able to go that much faster with limited dollars spent. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our story. And I'm really grateful to RESO and what they're doing to make sure that there's consistency from place to place so that we can have the ability to add value to every MLS.
Especially the comparisons that you made to McDonald's, right? Which many people argue in itself is a real estate play. So right. I'm going to attempt to close this out here with our ask of the audience and the attendees here. And that's simply, how can we replicate this success, right? So Jason's startup, CartoFront, it's a startup that solves a real problem, benefits the industry, helps realtors and their clients. This is a product that plugs directly into the MLS, keeping the MLS at the center of a realtor's toolkit. This product also relies on data standards and by all accounts is doing everything the right way. It's set to scale in other markets as quickly as possible. And again, partly due to RESO and its standards, partly due to what NAR and its accelerator have done and the work that Dan and Jeb and I do. And that's the reason why we invited Jason here today, is because it's the perfect success case for us and for RESO and all the companies on this call that he mentioned. So again, the question is, how can we best replicate this? How can we do this with more companies that benefit the real estate industry, MLSs, realtors, and pretty much everyone attending this conference? So here's what we suggest. Here's what we would like to do. First, the SBIT team would love to work with you and make sure NAR is always providing back to the data standards ecosystem. We're actively involved in all the different work groups, and we've got technical backgrounds. We'd love to value back from a technical perspective. And we'd also love to connect you with more innovators like Jason. And it doesn't have to be just startups either. Dan did a pretty good job covering this before during his section. That we've created these and fostered these amazing relationships with some of the top tech enterprises out there. And I think we can all agree that there's still plenty of room for innovation. So beyond connections, Dan and I are also available for education sessions for your members or realtors. We regularly do those on the top tech trends that we're looking at, so that any realtors or subscribers who are interested in more in that, we're happy to provide like emerging tech updates. And of course, one last ask is we want to learn from you, right? Our team collectively meets with dozens of real estate startups a month. What do you wish that they knew before approaching you? How can we help make sure that innovators are ready to connect to your systems beyond just being aware of the data dictionary and that research exists? We want to bridge that gap. We want to make sure that these startups that we think can impact the industry positively can scale to literally flip that switch. And we welcome those discussions. Transitioning a bit here, but along the same lines, I'd like to personally invite everyone here to the IOI Summit that Jeb mentioned before. This is the type of event where those discussions happen. Again, it's August 16th and 17th in Boston, Massachusetts. That's actually where I'm broadcasting from today. I just did a drive-by I drove by the hotel that the event is going to be hosted at. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's brand new. We think it's going to be the first really real estate tech event that's going to be held in person, as the country continues to do a great job with the vaccinations. If you haven't heard of the IOI Summit, it's the Innovation, Opportunity, and Investment. It focuses mostly on tech-savvy startups, industry innovators, angel investors, tech-savvy executives and realtors. Pretty much anyone who wants to stay on the cutting edge of prop tech attends the IOI Summit. My favorite part, and it's not just because I help run it, is the pitch battle. I'm hoping, Jason, we can get you to commit to come and present at the pitch battle this year. We think startups like yours would make for
I will absolutely be there, and I'm just letting everybody know I'm looking for a couple of seats for Sunday Boston Red Sox game. Just letting people know.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I do think the Red Sox are going to be home that week. So August 16th and 17th.
Already checked.
Yeah, I took a look myself. So yeah, the startup pitch battle is fantastic. If you want more information on that, check out ioi.realtor. August 16th and 17th in Boston. If you'd like more information about what SBIT is doing, make sure to go to nar.realtor/tech. If you want more information on IOI, you go to ioi.realtor. And hey, if you would like to get flood insurance connected directly into your MLS, feel free to hit up Jason and CartoFront. Thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate the time.
Great session. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.